Hello.
Dr. Tara, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to another program of the Guyana Dialogue. This is being sponsored by a group of Guyanese resident in the United States, Canada, the UK, the Caribbean, and in Guyana. Today we are fortunate to have as our guest the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Zulfikar Mustapha. We hope to engage him in a very informative and engaging discussion on the agriculture sector, the state of it, and what are the prospects for future growth and development, including challenges. With me, the two other panelists are Dr. Keshwar Ramkisoon, who is a well known and established cardiologist in New York. He's also a great humanitarian and social worker, very much committed to culture and humanitarian work. And Dr. Ganga Ramdas, who is a former head of the Department of Economics and International Relations at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And we are very pleased to welcome them and our main guest, or our only guest, the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Zulfikar Mustapha. Okay. Honorable Minister, welcome. I know it is a long time I was trying to get you, and you were so tied up. Anytime when you seem to be ready, you got to go overseas or go in the fields. So we really appreciate that you take time off. Um, at a general level, before we start talking about agriculture, I saw you at the energy conference, actually at the opening. Do you want to offer a few comments on that conference before we proceed?
Okay, so first of all, Doc, let me say I'm very happy to be on your program here, and I want to thank you and your panelists for inviting me in this program. I know for a fact some of my colleagues who have been on this program told me that this is very, very informative. And normally, I was on this program, I believe, on 2 or 3 occasions, and the feedback is good. But first of all, as you asked for the energy conference, right now, the energy conference, we have completed the third day, and I think it's going very well. But this year's energy conference is a conference with a difference, because what we're trying to do is to bring our the sectors together. For example, oil and gas is the most attractive sector in the country. But what we are doing now is to now bring the other sectors that are important, the sectors them that will propel Guyana's economy in the future, the sector then that will be here to stay, and agriculture is one of that sector that I'm referring to. So this year we have an agriculture village at the conference center, and we are linking that to the development of the oil and gas sector, where we have shown the transformation of the sector, the agriculture sector, over the last 4 years. So, and when you go around the conference village, you'll see a number of other sectors, that major sectors in Guyana, that are on display there. As a matter of fact, a number of ministers would have made sectorial presentation at the oil conference, so that delegates attending the conference can have a broad outlook of Guyana's emerging sectors, and also sectors that were here and sectors that we are developing. So this oil and gas conference, or this energy conference, is being held with a difference this time, where we are merging and bringing sectors together so that we can have investment in all the sectors. As a matter of fact, today only I met with two in potential investors that wants to invest in the agriculture sector. So you could see the synergy between the oil and gas sector and the agriculture sector. So in a nutshell, I think that this conference, this energy conference, is important for Guyana, like the other exhibition and expos and conferences that are now moving or advertising the potential of Guyana's economy and the investment opportunities that exist in our country.
You have an idea how many overseas participants were there?
Well, I was having a chat with the Minister of Natural Resources, and he told me over 1,000 persons would have attended, delegates and people coming into the conference.
Okay.
And leaving out internally local delegates' participation. So you have a lot of people at the conference.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you very much. I know in the budget speech, the Minister of Finance said that the agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector has expanded by 11% over 2023. Well, that is good, and most of that growth would have been attributed to the performance in the rice industry and to some extent to your new product, corn and soya. But before we get into that, what's the status of the 25 by 25 program? Are you going to realize that a reduction of 25% of food imports by the end of this year?
Well, I'm very optimistic, and like other leaders in the Caribbean, and I think right now in Barbados, the heads of government meeting is being taken place. I'm very optimistic by the end of this year, we can reach our target. Because when you look over the last few years, I think we are on target, although notwithstanding the setback that we have had with the natural disaster, with the hurricanes and the droughts. But I think that we are moving aggressively. I am very optimistic. I am very hopeful that, yes, at the end of this year, we can achieve the 25 by 2025. Because, and why I am making this statement against the background of Guyana's performance. And not only the rice on corn and soya sector would have performed well, but the other sectors also would have done very well. For example, the livestock sector. And when you look at the prioritization that we have done over the years in terms of prioritizing commodities, and those commodities that we have prioritized in the CARICOM region, those commodities that attract large revenue for importation, I think that we are well on our way. And I am very, very optimistic that although some country might not have reached their target or will not reach their targets, countries that were affected by the hurricanes, I think that most of the countries are on target to reach that target. So I'm very optimistic. We have another 10 months to go, and I'm hoping that we can move very aggressively to achieve that target.
Assuming you achieve the 25 by 25, what are your plans for future? Would you do another 25 by 25 in the other 5 years?
Well, this will be a work in progress. For example, the main focus or the main objective of CARICOM is to reduce the food import bill as much as possible. So we have set ourselves this period 25%. And as I said, for example, let me tell you what can be the outcome. If Guyana, at the end of this year, if Guyana can produce all its livestock feed in terms of producing all its corn and soya needs, then Guyana will save $40 million annually. That is I'm just giving that as an example to show what will be the effect or how it will help the country, so that $40 million will be available to go into other sectors to develop other sectors.
Mhm.
So this will continue. And as a matter of fact, the first period, the target is 25%. After this, we can look at it and see how much more we'll go, 10%, another 10%, another 20%, depends
Yeah.
on what are some of the areas. So this will be continuously until we can be self-sufficient in producing all our needs.
Right. Thank you very much, Minister. I'll put you on to Dr. Sanjay. You have a few clarification or points to the Minister.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Minister Zulfikar. How are you doing today?
Good, very
Very,
good. As
very
usual,
nice to meet with you on this program. Being a medical doctor, I'm always concerned about people eating healthy. And I think you being the Minister of Agriculture, we can work hand in hand to make sure that healthy produce is being done in the country. One of the things I've known from a little boy growing up is Gaisuku and the utility of sugar in the country. Can you give us an update on what's happening with Gaisuku and how it really affects the neighborhoods where the sugar industry no longer exists?
Well, and you know Gaisuku history because I have been talking about it all the time. The president himself and a number of other government officials have been talking about the sugar industry. The sugar industry, or sugar, is ingrained in the DNA of Guyana. You know that.
Right.
And no matter what industry we have and the stream of revenue that we have coming into our country, I think sugar will always play a pivotal role in Guyana's development. And we have seen what has happened when the former government would have closed 4 sugar estates. Poverty, there was a lot of problems in those areas that fall under those those estates. And today we are seeing back once again, we are seeing that life, that village economy is being rebuilt. For example, places like Wales, we had, when that factory was closed at Wales, that entire West Bank became a ghost town. People would have migrated and moved away from West Bank. Although we haven't reopened that factory because of the destruction that was done, with the new emerging industries that are going on there, we have seen a renewed hope, we have seen a renewed life. That is one of the areas now we are seeing a lot of interest where people are moving to Wales, West Bank areas to take up residence there because the economic opportunity there will be vast. Likewise, Rosal Estate. When Rosal was closed, the entire Kanji, West Kanji, you could see the destruction that was done there. Families were broken up. People had to migrate out of those areas because there were no other economic activity in that area. Today, once again, you're seeing the village economy, you're seeing the reemergence of life in Rosal and Kanji that's surrounding here. So Doc, you're right. Sugar is important, and the sugar industry plays a very important role. That is why you will see, you would have noticed over the last 4 years, government would have invested heavily in the sugar industry to bring it back to its former glory because of what happened between the period in 2015 to 2020. I think we have to do a lot more work to bring back Gaisuku where it was when we came out of office in 2015. And I am saying this against the background because there are many naysayers and doomsayers who are saying that the government is pouring money into the sugar industry because sugar workers are supporters of the government. That is not the case. The case is when the factory or when the estate or those 4 estates were slated to be closed, we asked for an economic impact study, that the government should conduct an economic impact study. They didn't listen to us. They went and closed the sugar industry, and we have seen what has happened after the closure of the sugar industry. But then again, although they had 3 grinding estate, they didn't make any investment to those estates. It was left to limp along, and they were barely producing, because I can tell you that in 2015, at the end of 2015 and 2016, Rose Hall and more Skeldon. As a matter of fact, Skeldon produced almost 100,000 tons of sugar in 2016, and they made the statement that they have turned around the sugar industry. But the work that we have done over time, prior to 2015, that helped Skeldon to make that target. But because of the neglect, now we have to expend a lot of money. For example, the premier estate in Gaisuku is Albion. The entire factory at Albion was left to neglect. They didn't spend any money. That was limping along. The entire undercarriage, almost the entire cane grinding system at that sugar factory has been modernized and changed now. We are moving. So the sugar industry has a vital role to play. We are moving into mechanization. 40% of Gaisuku's cultivation have been mechanized. We are now building a new packaging plant at Albion. We are expanding the one at Blairmont. We have started the cultivation of cane once again at Skeldon. We are hoping by the end of this year we can plant 1,500 hectares of cane in mechanized field, and the target is another 5,000 hectares of cultivation we'll do at Skeldon. We are looking to increase cultivation at Rose Hall, and Blairmont and Albion. We are moving at pace, and IFLOT, to ensure that we continue to improve those areas. So Gaisuku, as I said, although we have made that expenditure in Gaisuku, we are moving to ensure that Gaisuku becomes once again profitable. First of all, we are working to break even. First of all, we are working to reduce the cost of production. And then we'll move the process forward to break-even point and then profitability. But Gaisuku is interlinked in the country's economy, and Gaisuku is important for the country's development.
Follow-up
Minister, if
question.
I may, the healthcare sector within Gaisuku. When I was a little boy, I used to go to the dispensary. That doesn't no longer exist. With the new resuscitation of Gaisuku, do you think that the healthcare for the sugar industry and its workers will also come under Gaisuku, or will be deferred to the health ministry within the country?
No, the primary health care is still under Gaisuku. For example, as you rightly said, when you were a little boy, the dispensaries are still there, and Gaisuku workers, they are entitled to the primary health care. But the more major and serious situation is referred to the Ministry of Health. But we have a very close working relation there between Gaisuku's health personnel and the ministry. So I don't see an issue. For example, these dispensaries that are at the estate, normally when they can't handle a situation, they do referral to these major hospitals in the regions. So you have that kind of relationship there. But the primary health care is still there at the estate level.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Dr. Ganga, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Tara. Welcome, Honorable Minister Mustapha. It's nice to see you again. In terms of providing information, I take the angle of asking questions that would uncover opportunities to our listeners and to those young people who are going to university and want to take up farming and work in the agricultural sector. So in that regard, I would ask about data availability in terms of land use, number of farms, small, medium, and large, and the trends that are occurring in the industry. I would like to focus on the dairy, and you can also talk about the coconut industry. Those two for this evening.
Well, thanks, Doc. So first of all, I want to say that probably based on the question, we are now moving away from certain things that we used to do before. We are making agriculture more attractive, first of all. We are making agriculture more modern, but at the same time, we are making agriculture for young people to change the perception that they have about agriculture. Young people's perception is that agriculture is a menial job, that agriculture is for the old and not young, bright persons. And over the years, we have changed that perception because there are a number of young people who are coming out from the University of Guyana with a degree, with agronomy. A number of young people we are churning out from the Guyana School of Agriculture. And those persons who were graduating from these institutions were never involved in agriculture. Most of them were involved in clerical work. So when we resume office in 2020, in 2021, the president asked me that, look, we should come up with an idea, an innovative idea to attract young people to agriculture. So much so that he came up himself with a good idea of farming, of making young people more responsible or taking the agriculture, putting agriculture to young people in a more attractive way. So we came up with an idea of forming a company. And that company, we said that we'll ensure that young people make up, our young people be shareholders of that company. So we form a company called the Agriculture Innovation Entrepreneurship Program, where we have over 500 young people now in different parts of the country. First of all, we started out with shade houses across the country. To date, we have built almost 600 shade houses. We have young people who are now making their livelihood, graduates from the University of Guyana, who are making their livelihood from this form of this activity. But more importantly, when you look at the produce they're producing, those are produce that we used to import into Guyana. For example, these high-value crops, broccoli, cauliflower, carrot, lettuce, bell pepper, those things that are being sold in the hospitality industry. The hospitality industry we have seen it has increased tremendously in Guyana, but we have a new set of people or a new industry to take care of, and that is the oil and gas industry. So in 2021, when I look at the import, we imported $2.6 billion in these produce. Today, that has reduced tremendously. We have over, as you rightly said, you want to know how many farms. We have the largest hydroponic farm in the Caribbean, in Guyana, at Manripo. And now we are doing 3 more of those in 3 other regions, regions 2, 5, and 10, where each farm will attract approximately 300 young persons. And they will run these farms, they will make their livelihood out of these farms, and they will bring in more young people. And these will be modern farms, hydroponics, 100,000 plantlets at any time. Within 9 to 12 weeks, you can have your produce. And what we are working with the new GMC now, we have changed their objective in terms of working with the young people to find market for their produce. So we are not only giving opportunities, and this is one section of the population, the young people. Now, in terms of the other farms, we are working with a number of other farmers. We have large, extensive farms where, for example, we have farmers who have multiple crops being grown, and coconut is one. To date, we have 37,000 acres of coconut plantation right now, as I'm saying. We have expanded tremendously. We have brought in new high-yielding coconuts into the country from Brazil, Costa Rica, and we are now working with a number of farmers to increase coconut production because coconut is very lucrative around the world. We are now a member of the international coconut community too. Now, we are also, as Dr. Tara would have referred to, we have a number, almost 15 new investors that are going into corn and soya. The Takama, the premier one is the Takama Gold. They are cultivating approximately 5,000 hectares. They will be cultivating 5,000 hectares of corn and soya. We have a number of other investors who will be cultivating between 1,000 to 2,000. Some of them will be cultivating 3,000 acres and hectares also of corn and soya. That, as I said, I am very optimistic that this year, by the end of this year, or by the end of this cropping period, for corn and soya, we might or we should be self-sufficient there. We are seeing in the livestock industry, we are seeing a new and emerging set of persons coming into the livestock industry. What we have done there, we have started a new program where we have brought in the technology that Brazil has in terms of embryo transplant. We are doing that now in Guyana. We have increased the number of farmers in the livestock industry. As a matter of fact, last year, the livestock industry grew tremendously. And we have upped our artificial insemination program. We are now working with a number of other small farmers. We have rolled out the black belly sheep program. We already, we received from Barbados 1,000 black belly sheep. We have increased that by over 100% already. Over 350 farmers are enrolled in that program. We are trying to create and replace the New Zealand lamb coming to this part of the world and create a black belly sheep brand from a black belly brand from Guyana with Barbados, with Guyana and Barbados. And we have built state-of-the-art, or we have built a state-of-the-art abattoir at Anvawak, where we will have, that will be the premier slaughtering facility. We, DDL, they have put down a $20 million dairy farm at Moblisa. We already have a dairy plant at Anvawak. So generally, you're asking, we are moving in all the direction. Also, one of the area that is emerging rapidly and is making a lot of, or a lot of people are showing a lot of interest in it, is aquaculture. We have started in, when we started out, for example, in Region 6, East Berbice Quarantine, farmers there used to do subsistence farming in terms of rearing these brackish water shrimp, or these black shrimp that we're talking about. They used to produce approximately 10,000 kilograms monthly. We have worked with them. To date, we are now producing 120,000 kilograms monthly. We have started the production of Vanami prawns. We have now, we have facilities at Anvawak, and we are doing our own larvae. We started out with importing larvae from Miami, Florida, and now we are doing our own, we build our own hatchery, and we are producing our own larvae. We are now building our own feed mill to produce our own feed, and that is moving apace. As a matter of fact, we already started to harvest prawns there, and it's been sold locally. We are hoping that we can capture the North American market. So generally, what you're asking there are a lot of potential in these areas that I mentioned, and there are large-scale investment, there are large-scale opportunities that exist in these areas.
Just relating to the dairy industry, there are two additional opportunities: feed production and the milk plant processing facilities. Can you update us on that?
Well, the milk plant processing facility is a facility that the feed will be produced right there. The animal, because you have a 20, I believe they have a 2,000 acres plot there that they will be working with a company from Israel, the DDL. They will be doing the milk there, the milk plant there. The feed will be produced right there. The feed mill that we are building is aquaculture feed mill, and to produce that for the aquaculture farm. And what also I failed to mention that we have started a new activity in Guyana, that is the cage culture. We have now marine cages across the country, especially in the hinterland communities in various parts of the country, and also we'll be producing feed for those cages that we are now wearing these tambaqui, the Brazilian fish that now we are producing in Guyana, and also the tilapia that we normally produce in Guyana. So generally, the feed mill is located at Manripo, and we'll be using the same ingredients from the corn and soya industry so that we can move that process forward.
Could you also address this aspect, which might be tied to the health aspect as well? The way we feed the cattle, and including marine animals as well. I saw that in Chile with the salmon and the sea enclosure. It was prone to some disease, so we have to keep that in mind.
No, I agree with you, and we are taking all precaution. As a matter of fact, we have been working with the farmers very closely. I can tell you this also, that we have been giving farmers these new breeding bulls. We brought in, last year we brought in 73 breeding bulls from Texas. We are working with the farmers in various areas, and now we are giving farmers these breeding bulls so that they can increase their flocks. As I said, we have the abattoir at Anbawak. Now also we are looking to do a modular pig slaughtering and processing facility at the Garden of Eden. And one of the other areas, and another attractive area, is apiculture. We have seen massive improvement in apiculture. In 2023, we produced a total of 3,000 gallons of honey in the apiculture industry. We brought in 3 specialists from Cuba who now is working with various groups across the country. We have developed hives and we have given to various groups, and we were able to increase honey production in 2024 to 30,000 gallons. So apiculture is one of the more, and a lot of women are involved in apiculture. And I think that the Guyana will be one of the main area or main country in the production of honey. And with the vegetation that we have, I think it's very, very good in terms of the rich honey that we can produce.
Right.
Also in the poultry sector, we are now moving from those pens that the farmers of in Guyana when you were here. We are going now into the new pens, the tunnel ventilated pens that we are importing. That one of those pens can hold over 40,000 broilers at a time. And we are working with a lot of young people also. There is a serious problem with the IBH disease, and we have suffered from that disease over the years. We have been working with the Poultry Producers Association. As a matter of fact, last year we gave them $30 million to import vaccine. We are now looking to produce our own vaccines in Guyana. As the president, when he spoke at the the energy conference, he said by the end of this year, Guyana will produce all our vaccine needs for the livestock industry. Only this morning I had a meeting with the investor and our people to set up the facility. So hopefully we can start to produce vaccines in Guyana. We are moving rapidly in terms of developing the agriculture sector.
Dr. Ganga, hold back your question. Let me just, on the marine, the fishing, can you give us a quick update on the status of the Gilbarca entry back into U.S.?
Well, I'm optimistic because we have submitted all the documents, all the that they want from us. I know for a fact I am now waiting on them to see what more they need. But I have been working with the U.S. Embassy very closely. The ambassador is working with me very, very closely with my officers.
Mm.
I'm very optimistic that we can get that ban removed. But
All right.
also we should also share the legend to that. The legend is that in 2017, the USDA wrote to the government then, advising that if they don't put their house in order, they will ban the catfish species into the US market. They didn't pay heed and they were given 3 warnings, and eventually it was banned. Now it is our task as a government to work to get that ban removed. And we are working. I am very, very optimistic that
All
can
right.
happen.
What about the update on the experimental wheat production in the European Union? We haven't heard it.
They are still going. Trials are ongoing. There are a number of areas in Guyana that the rice resort station that are they are spearheading the operation. The scientists there, they are working in various parts of the country. For example, the last time they spoke to me, they told me that they are doing a large experiment in Paramacatai. You know, Paramacatai is very cold, it's very temperate. I'm hoping that we can, and other parts of the country, but the trial is still ongoing.
But there is any reason to be optimistic with
Yeah,
these?
I believe so, because what I'm doing also, I asked Embrapa. Embrapa is like the Nari in Brazil. So if they could help us in terms of sharing experience, because you know tropical wheat is being grown in Brazil, and Embrapa is spearheading that operations. I've asked the Minister of Agriculture when we had discussion if we can have 2 facilitators from Embrapa to come join us at NARI so that we can move the process forward. I'm hoping that the new year has begun and we can start get those people to come.
Okay, and when Skelton factory at Sugar Estate was closed, there was some suggestion that part of that will be for aquaculture and another part will be for industrial hemp. And at one time, there's an ongoing debate in the media as well about industrial hemp, which could be, like one acre of forest. 1 acre of industrial hemp can produce more paper than 4 acres of forest. That's one example. Apart from industrial hemp being, it can be like a building block for industries. There are so many other, about 8 or 9 uses of industrial hemp. Can you give us an update on that?
So recently, the board has formed, and you know, former Commissioner of Land, Andrew Bishop, is the chair of that board now. You have representatives from the private sector, from the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Forensic Laboratory. You have Ministry from the you have representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture. They are now meeting and putting together the standard operating procedure or the protocols. Now they will. I asked them if they could make these come together and get these suggestions ongoing. For example, the application forms, the amount of hemp cultivation an individual should cultivate, and you know the 2 areas are Region 6 and Region 10 that are earmarked in the legislation for the starting of hemp production, and they are in the process of doing that. They are in the process of setting up the office. So I'm very optimistic shortly, and you rightly said it. The Vice President would have already talked about the lands at Skelton area, not only the Skelton estate land, but there are approximately 35,000 acres of land between number 52 to Molson Creek that can be developed, and we are looking to develop those lands. Also, you know, the private cane farmers that used to supply canes to the Skelton factory, they have another 11,000 acres of private land that they are willing to also develop, and those lands are already developed. So you rightly said it, that we are looking to do some aquaculture, some hemp production, but we have already started back cultivation of cane in part of the Skelton pool cultivation.
Okay. Before I pass you on to Dr. Sanjay, let me ask you this last question. Do you see any competition that workers might move away from the sugar industry to industrial hemp? Do you see that as a problem or a potential problem?
Well, as an industry, Gaisuko is preparing because let me be frank with you, people will not want to, people will always gravitate to other industries. And you will have to prepare for attrition, you will have to prepare for people leaving the industry. That is why Gaisuko is advancing mechanization so that instead of the old small Dutch beds, they are making the beds broader so that they can use these harvesters, these billet harvesters also. So yes, I don't see an issue where workers might want to gravitate to other industry, but Gaisuko is preparing for that, and also they will. That is why they are moving in this phase of mechanization. A time will come that they'll have that, and they started already. They are using these billet harvesters. They are using these bell loaders to load the cane. People, workers now are not fishing cane on their heads anymore. They're only cutting the canes
All right.
and heap it. So a time will come, right? A time will come, and any forward-thinking industry, any forward-thinking administration would plan to better in operations in the future, to make operations more modern, make operation more competitive, and things like that. But an administration that doesn't do that does not work the pong salt. So as I said, Gaisuko is moving in that direction. Workers will leave Gaisuko. You will have attrition taking place. So they will have to prepare. So as a matter of fact, let me just give you this. This year, I see Gaisuko has in the budget to purchase 2 harvesters, and they will purchase more bell loaders. So that means they are preparing.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Dr. Sanjay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister, for these updates. One of the things I find a little striking, Region 6 in particular, has affected more with the sugar industry, but many of our investments are done in Region 4. I was just wondering if there is going to be, I know there's going to be hemp production. Is there other investments that's going to be happening in Region 6, Quarantine and Crabwood Creek areas? That's one question. And the other thing, there are a lot of suicides within the neighborhood, especially in the Quarantine area, in the Indo-Caribbean area. And I wanted to know if there is a possibility of having a lockbox done through the Ministry of Agriculture when they're giving out these pesticides, if we can better control it to prevent suicide.
Good. First of all, I think the investment in Berbice, probably we have to talk more about it. Besides hemp and the traditional areas, there are massive investment that will take place and are taking place in Berbice. The entire area at Palmyra now is being transformed. You have call center going up there, you got hotels going up there, you have different other investment taking place there. We're building a brand new stadium there, a stadium like that we have in Region 4 at this Providence Stadium, where we have a big international cricket CPL matches and things like that. We have Albion Sports Complex, where we are developing into a semi-stadium, and the oil and gas industry will expand to Region 6. Region 6 is earmarked for the Deepwater Harbor, you know that. So besides the traditional area that you spoke about, there will be massive investment. The Quarantine River Bridge will open up a new entire area for Region 6. We are looking at also to do a high-span bridge across the Berbice River so that Region 6 can interlink with the developmental chain of Guyana. You have Region 6 will link Suriname to Guyana. You have the Deepwater Harbor, the northern state of Brazil coming to Guyana, the coast of Guyana, coming straight to Georgetown, going to Region 3. So you get the entire areas, that corridor will be developed, and Region 6 is an integral part of that development.
Follow up.
In terms of getting a lockbox for the
Oh,
pesticide.
yes, sorry about it. Yeah. We started that 2 years ago, since I became Minister of Agriculture. But
How is it working out?
We were doing it in a small scale. I spoke to the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board. First of all the dangerous chemical we are trying to eradicate, because there are serious problems around the world. For example, rice. The rice industry, if you use certain chemical, you cannot get market in the EU. So we are trying to move away from those dangerous chemicals. I've asked the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board to work along with the farmers to have those lock boxes that you spoke about. We have started it, but not in a big, large scale. We have to also not only do the lock boxes that you have spoken about, but we have to also do a lot of education. And we are working with a number of organizations to ensure, as you rightly said, there are a lot of suicide coming out of the quarantine area, but I think it's changing. It's changing, and people are now more au fait with the use of chemical. Also, with those social problems, you have a lot of social workers through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, the Ministry of Education, and things like that. So we are working very, very closely to get these things done, to make the use of pesticide and chemical safer for the community.
Thank you.
Dr. Ganga?
Okay, I'm just following up in terms of the dairy industry. We find that some markets prefer to have milk from cattle that are pasture grazed. So they would be more organic. It's a healthy mix to have organic milk, so to speak. We with our commercializing methods, we would miss out on this pasture grazed markets, and who knows, maybe it might work against us if we do the regular commercial feeding of the cattle instead of having pasture grazed cattle. So can you comment on that aspect?
Not at all that, because let me tell you what, that is only one investment I spoke about with that that you talk about. But we have developed over the last 4 years. We have developed feeding lots right across our country. We have developed a number of pastures in our country, and the majority, 90% of the cattle population are being fed pasture, are grazing the pastures and produce feeding lots. So I do that as I said, and let me be very frank with you. When I said that the feed from that investment at Moblisa, they are growing grass there. They are doing a lot of feeding lots. So organic meat, organic milk will be produced coming out of those areas too. And Guyana, as a matter of fact, as a country, Guyana, we are doing over 95% of our organic production in terms of milk and beef.
Other opportunities within the industry could be the manure management and the making of fertilizer. So could you speak to that?
Well, you know that with the gas to shore project that we have, we will start soon to produce fertilizer. When that project is coming stream, and hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have and those, as you rightly said, those ingredients can be used to produce fertilizer, organic fertilizer. And what we have seen in Guyana over the last year, a lot of nano fertilizer coming into Guyana. So those traditional fertilizer, the ureas, the NPK, and so people are using less and less, and they are using more organic nano fertilizer. And you rightly said that the dung coming out from the cow and the other things, we can use those as ingredients to produce good fertilizer, healthy and raise healthy animals.
Indeed, that would convince the buyers in foreign markets, if we were exporting, that we're using organic instead of inorganic for
Right,
fertilizers. So that's
definitely.
a big plus to maintain that standard for the foreign markets and our own health standards as well.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't know. Okay, we have some time there.
Yeah.
Since all these acres, in terms of coconut production, will be used up, do we have like intercropping within the coconut industry? So we produce coffee and coconut, coffee, cocoa, and maybe honey as well in those spaces.
Well, we have started a lot of intercropping. We have started a lot of intercropping with the new coconut production industry that we have. But we haven't started the coffee and coconut intercropping as yet. I want to be honest with that. What we are doing, we are working with ECA, and we are trying to resuscitate the coffee and cocoa industry, and we have started it in Region 1. As I'm speaking now, we have nurseries in Region 1 and in the Pomeroon, and I'm looking to increase that across the country. So generally, yes, we have started intercropping, but with other crops rather than coffee and cocoa. But what we are doing now, we want Guyana to be a major player, a major producer in coffee and cocoa. So we are working very closely with ICA from Costa Rica to ensure that they help us in that. They have already sent some specialists. They have sent a number of planting materials to Guyana that we are building the nursery with. And we are hoping that Guyana can start large-scale cultivation of cocoa and coffee, especially coffee. And we are working with the two different varieties, the Arabica and the Liberica coffee, that are very in demand around the world, especially the Arabica. And we are working to do large-scale cultivation of those coffee varieties.
Yeah, I recall that Upper Demerara we had some of the best coconuts, real bellyful coconut water. Can you
We
speak
still
to
have
what?
some there. We still have any working there, places like Karuni and other places.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Sanjay, you have a last question or point to raise with the minister? We're running out of time. You only got a couple of minutes more.
I have a quick comment.
Yeah.
Minister, your ministry is very proactive. Kudos to you and your staff. You're doing tremendous work, from honey production with bees to rice, sugar, and everything else that's happening. So I really want to commend you for being at the helm here. And I, deep down within, I really want to see more happening in Region 6 in Upper Quarantine, where I'm from. But I think you guys are doing an excellent job. And I'm happy to be a part of this program this evening. Thank you for taking time off and meeting with all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for those kind words. And whenever you're in Guyana, please make contact so
We will.
can also discuss more and show you some of the
Yeah.
more work that we are doing.
I'm amazed. Thank you.
Dr. Sanjay visit Guyana regularly. There is a comment here.
So before we move on, Dr. Tara, you should tell the guys that whenever you come to Guyana, you always visit me.
There's a guy named Michael Pereira who wrote that the government and especially the agriculture minister is doing a great job for Guyana. Nankishore Singh, Minister Zulfi, is doing a great job too. All the comments are very positive. So it's echo what Dr. Sanjay just said. Dr. Ganga, your final thought?
Yeah, I was curious. What happened to Sankara Estate? Could we convert that into a research station? My uncles all grew up there. The Tiger, the Tiger family. They
Yes.
they raised there. What happened to that estate?
Well, it's still privately. We have to explore it, and I think that if they want, we can work together jointly. And as you rightly said, make it a research area that we can have young people and also people from the Ministry of Agriculture work along.
Well,
Yeah.
So let's work towards that.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
the development that I particularly like that Dr. Sanjay mentioned, the honeybee. Honey is the only product that doesn't expire. You know, Dr. Ganga, you sent me something which is really remarkable. Honey is such a perfect food as well.
Yes.
So it's great that you're expanding on that. Now, Minister, we thank you very much for spending this hour with you, and we'll give you a few minutes now to do your closing remarks.
So yes, Doc, let me thank you once again for inviting me on this program. I saw some of the comments here. I saw there is more need, or the GMC needs to play a more pivotal role in the retail market in order to help control prices. You know, that is a little difficult because price control, we normally don't get involved in price control. But what the GMC is doing, the GMC is finding markets for small producers. And over the last 4 years, we have brought on to the market over close to about 2,000 new products, agro-processing products. And you know, the agro-processing industry, more females are involved in it. We are finding jobs for those females. Um, there should be more emphasis placed in Region 3. For instance, think it is necessary university to be in the region. Well, Region 3, now you'll have a fixed bridge. Within minutes, you'll be in Georgetown. And you have expanded road right onto Turkine. So I don't see any issue with that. But later on, as we move on, and you'll have new development taking place. So Doc, those were some of the comments that you have on your program. The fish farming will continue. As I said, that we are making aquaculture a new industry. But rest assured, I want to make this point that agriculture will be one of the most important industry in Guyana. As we know, agriculture is viewed as the mainstay of our economy and a fundamental development pillar for our future low carbon development path. And you know, agriculture, we have positioned the agriculture sector as an expanded, diversified, modernized, resilient, and competitive sector. That is why you have seen over the last 4 years, when I became Minister of Agriculture, the investment in the agriculture sector reduced from $18.5 billion in 2014 to $13.5 billion when I became a minister in 2020. Today, we have seen investment increase. Last year, we have expended $98.7 billion. And this year, 2025, $104.6 billion budgeted to continue our aggressive investment and support for the sector, recognizing how critical food security is for our country and for the CARICOM region more broadly. And if by 2025 has to be successful, then Guyana has to be successful. What we have, our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean doesn't have. Two main ingredients. We have abundant fresh water and flat and arable land. We are now tapping in and we are having the investment coming into the country. That is why Guyana is being viewed as a powerhouse once again in agriculture and food security. And since our president, His Excellency, have taken over the lead in agriculture and food security, we have seen a renewed interest not only in Guyana, but across the Caribbean. For example, places like Barbados, whose economy were built on tourism, they are now going in large-scale agricultural production. Trinidad and Tobago, their economy was built on tourism, oil and gas. We have helped them to resuscitate the rice industry. We are working with the Eastern Caribbean to build their agricultural sector. So whilst we are building ours, we are giving that kind of leadership in the Caribbean. And as we know, a government that invests in agriculture, that government has the people interests at heart, because food security is important, it's critical. And we have seen what has happened during the pandemic. Countries with large sums of money, financially stable countries, financially stable economy, were unable to procure food for the population because there was a scarcity of food. There was a downturn in production. And we don't want to be caught like that. That is why we are increasing the traditional crops that we used to grow. We are seeing increased production for the first time in the history of our country. We have surpassed the 700,000 ton mark in rice production. As a matter of fact, it peaked at 725,000 tons last year. This year, we have increased that target to 804,000 tons. And we are very optimistic that that will be achieved. And other areas, in the livestock industry, in the other crops industry, we are going to new crops. So agriculture is moving and moving rapidly. What we have seen in the last 4 years is a revolution in the agriculture sector. And with the passion that is being exhibited by the president of our country, I think Guyana will be a powerhouse in the near future. So let me thank you very much once again for having me on your program. I think the time was a little short, but we can continue this discourse.
Yeah.
Again, Doc, you normally have contact regularly with me, and sometimes we can continue this.
There is so many. That's right. There are so many other areas that we need to cover. But I just want to ask you a quick question before you go. The Underwalk milk plant there. When last I was in Ghana, somebody told me it's closed down.
No, it's working. It's pasteurized. It's a Canadian who doing it. And it's pasteurized milk coming out there. So
yeah, some guy
it's working. It's working.
I know the guy who owns it he had his roots in Lenora.
Amayo milk. Amayo milk.
All right. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you very much. I know you're very busy. You're very hardworking, one of the hardest working government ministers. And I want to thank you to spend this time to educate us on the agriculture sector. You know, one of the amazing things I find in the media in Guyana, especially legacy media, the mainstream media, they cover things on gas to shore project, oil industry, corruption, and this preoccupation with biometrics, etc. But really, there's much attention given to agriculture, except sugarcane, because the sugar industry is not doing well. There is hardly
the negative aspect.
Yeah, and they don't pay much attention to the massive development in the healthcare sector, the infrastructure, the social. You know, it's. I often wonder why, like we had a program with the vice chair of the Guyana Manufacturing Services Association, Mr. Rafiq, and he revealed so many interesting things. And forestry is playing such an important impact on the country's development and transformation. It employs over 25,000 people. And now they're talking about value added and so many things to produce. And yet, the public, including media, they barely give coverage. They don't even give coverage to these important developments. And I would hope, especially the government media, like Chronicle and to some extent Guyana Times, will pay some more attention to give adequate coverage to these sectors, and especially the agriculture. Anyhow, I want to thank you very much, and our panelists, as usual, Dr. Ganga Ramdas, who's been with us from the very beginning, and now Dr. Sanjay Ramkisoon. He'll be with us again whenever he's available. You know, he's a cardiologist, so he's not always available. So we want to thank him too for taking this time, and he will definitely visit you when he return back to Guyana. He just came back from Guyana, as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And if anything wrong with your heart, here's a man. He'll look after it free. He had previous government functionaries who he look after. I wouldn't call name, but you can communicate with him with that. And Ganga, go ahead.
Yeah. Just a quick request for this southern part, south of Diamond Estate. When Diamond closed, it affected me personally. But there is agricultural land south of Diamond Estate. Could we have a report on what's happening all the way to maybe up to Susdike, but south of Diamond Estate, especially behind Craigback and all those
A
areas?
lot of those lands are being taken up into farmlands, and also, the new highway is running there too, to go back to the Susdike Highway there. So the Heroes Highway will continue. So I will give you an update. I will give you an update through Dr. Taro.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So, Minister, if you can just hold on just for 2 minutes. Asif